Joy to see you all. And we are gathered here to listen to a very important talk that can help us build our lives up and put things at the right places in our lives. Sometimes we go through this life with ignorance and we don't do the right things at the right time. But thanks be to God, the welfare department has organized this conference so that we will hear, we will be advised, we will be directed as things we need to do so that in the end we will not live in regret. Thank you. So on behalf of the leadership of the established parish and the entire Igbo Presbytery, I welcome you all to this conference. May God bless you for your time and your support. Thank you. So let us pray. So Father, we just thank you for this blessed day, for this is the day you have made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. We thank you for all that you have in store for us. We thank you for your direction for our lives. And Lord, as we begin this conference, we commit it into your hands. Those who are on their way coming, we ask for traveling mercies and your protection. We ask for protection throughout this meeting. And we commit all the speakers into your hands, that everything that we are about to hear will bless the life of your children. Through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Susie. We gathered here today to listen to a seminar on pension and insurance. Here to deliver this seminar is an experienced financial professional, currently serving as a pension consultant with Deloitte. He has a rich background and an international wealth planning, who has successfully assisted clients with UK pension across 5 continents. As a devout Christian, he is committed to upholding strong values in wealth management by offering ethical and trustworthy financial advice, and combines his extensive knowledge with a principled approach to delivering exceptional financial planning and consulting service. And we are honored to have him here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome on stage Eduardo Simões.
Welcome, everyone. What if this evening you found out exactly how much money you need to retire? What if you learned some tricks that those we call wealthy use to grow their money, to increase their money beyond measure? And what if you understood the most important foundational element of a successful financial plan? Well, today, that is the information I'm going to share with you. In our seminar, we will go through a range of topics, including how to protect yourself from financial ruin, tracking down old pensions that you may have lost track of, different ways to invest your money, a few tips to make your savings work harder for yourself, and most importantly, how to do all of this as efficiently as possible. Now, by show of hands, how many of you have here worried about money or have worried about money in the past? It's a fairly common occurrence, and most of us, even myself as a finance professional, I worry about my money sometimes. It's quite frankly something that we do more often than we should. But how can we reduce the worry? How can we reduce the stress? How can we gain clarity and gain confidence in our finances and achieve that complete peace of mind about it when it comes to our money? And that is part of what financial planning and what my profession is all about. So let's consider one of the best stories there is, which is in the very first book of the Bible. That's the next slide. And it's the book of Genesis. In it, we are told the story of Joseph, who was sold into slavery, rose to power by interpreting the Pharaoh's dreams, and those foretold 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. And now he advised the Pharaoh to save about 20% of the harvest during the abundant years to prepare for the famine. And it was this foresight and seeking of guidance that ensured Egypt and the Pharaoh not only survived the famine, but also thrived and helped neighboring countries, neighboring nations. And it's this beautiful story that highlights the importance of prudent financial management, saving for emergencies, and seeking wise counsel. Because if the Pharaoh had not been careful, as Joseph had told him to, Egypt would have suffered immensely. So the Bible tells us right away how important it is to save, to set our resources aside, and to basically save our money. So why are we then not doing it? Think about that for a second. The Bible is giving us that guidance and saying, put your money aside, 20%, 10%, How much are you putting aside? How much are you saving? Are you prepared for 7 years of famine? Are you prepared for financial downfalls, for COVID, for interest rates rising and the economy collapses, for emergencies, the car breaks down? Are we prepared for all of that? So today I'll go through 3 very important things. One, I'll tell you about investments, mentality and budgeting, what type of investments are the best ones to go into, how we can make small changes to our behavior to generate impactful results, and how mindset impacts the way we generate and grow our money. 2, I will teach you a little bit about pensions. There's a lot to learn, but I'll teach you a little bit. So how they work in the UK, how you can use them to your advantage, how you can track down all pensions, and if pensions are in fact the best thing to invest in for your retirement. And 3, I will teach you a little bit about insurance. I'm going to tell you why insurance is, in my opinion, the most important thing in any person's finances, and how it can protect you from complete financial ruin. And lastly, I will tell you how we can organize everything into a very cohesive plan that ensures financial security and peace of mind. So let me begin by asking you all a question. How many people here buy meal deals from Tesco? Put your hands up if you buy meal deals from Tesco every now and again. Yeah? So let's go into the maths of it. Now, a typical meal deal costs about £3.50, £3.40 if you have a club card. A bargain, right? Now we can work out how much that costs us per annum. We work around 250 days a year. If every time we go into work, we buy a meal deal, that would cost us about £875. That's per year. That's how much money you're spending per year on a meal deal, or at least sometimes how much money we can spend on a meal deal just by buying a meal deal when you go to work. Now behind me, we've got some stuff we could buy with £875. You can buy a car. You can also buy this lovely holiday to Tunisia. It's a 5-star holiday with flights included, 7 nights, all inclusive. And you can also buy about 58 kilos of beef, like 58 kg. That's a lot of beef. But also, we can do something else with it. And let's just say we are investing our money. Let's say we're putting this money aside instead of buying a meal deal. We're putting £875 aside every single year or month or day. Now, 6.5% per annum. That's an average return on your money when you invest it. So, of course, past performance is not indicative of future performance, I have to say that. But this is to give you an idea. So if you put this money aside every month for 5 years, you'd end up with just over £5,000. So by cutting out a meal deal every day that you go to work, you can actually accumulate wealth quite quickly. In 5 years, you just have £5,000 sitting there to put towards whatever you need. And I know that everyone tends to think and everyone tends to believe that to become wealthy or rich, that we need to make huge amounts of money and make tremendous amounts of differences to our lifestyle. But the reality is that by making just such a small change as this one, as cutting out a meal deal, can actually generate a lot of money over the long term. And it was Jesus himself who gave us this information. And this is in Matthew 13, verse 31 to 32. And he said, "Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is like to a grain of mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field, which indeed is the least of all seeds, but when it is grown, it is the greatest among herbs, and becometh a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in the branches thereof." And this wisdom doesn't just apply to faith. It also shows us that the smallest of things, the smallest of changes, can generate impactful and great results. So the answer to wealth and prosperity is in front of us all along. And I give you another example. Say at the end of the week or at the end of the month you get paid. What's the first thing you do? Well, you go and pay the rent, or you pay your mortgage. So you pay the landlord, or you pay the bank. And then you pay your gas and your electric, so you pay the big utility companies. And then comes your Wi-Fi and your TV, so you're paying Sky or Virgin or BT or whoever you have. And then you buy food, so you're paying Tesco's, and you're paying Aldi or Asda or whatever you're going to. In the end, everyone's getting a little bit richer, except you. Why are you not paying yourself? So that's actually something that comes again in the Bible, in Proverbs 21:20. It is said that there is treasure to be desired, and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spendeth it up. Meaning that those who are wise set money aside. They are careful. They put the money aside, and that leads to riches. And that those who do not put this money aside, those who do not save, are considered foolish. So he says, King Solomon, right? So if you take one lesson today from this seminar, I hope, is to pay yourself first. And you can ask me, how can I do this? Well, it's pretty easy. You set a savings account up for yourself, set one up for yourself in your name, and set up a direct debit. Just as you have a direct debit for your rent, for your mortgage, you set direct debit up for yourself, whether you're saving £10 a week or £10 a month, doesn't matter. As I said before, small changes can lead to very big results. Now you can also say, I'm putting this money aside every month, but every week. But what do I invest in? And that leads us to the investment section of our seminar today. Investing can be done in a variety of things. You can invest money in property, in what we call stocks and shares. You can invest money into bonds, which are usually government run, but can also be run by companies. You can invest money into commodities, which is what we know as gold, silver, platinum, all of the precious metals, and also oil and the like. And also collectibles like watches, art, classic cars, among others. But the question really goes back to what do I invest in? There's so many things to invest in. What do I invest in? And the truth is, it depends. It depends when you'll be accessing your money. Because if you tell me, you need money in 2 months, I'm not going to tell you to buy a watch. Because 2 months is not enough to sell that watch. It's not enough to buy it and then sell it. You won't make any money out of it. But if you told me it's a 5-year, you need money in 5 years' time for whatever purchase it is, then maybe the watch is the best solution for you. So the first step really is determining the time frame of your investment. When will you be needing that money? And it could be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. That's the first step. And then we see how much we can afford to lose. So let's imagine two scenarios over here. The first one is John. John has £1 million in the bank. He's a rich guy. And this is Joe. He has £1,000 in the bank. Now Jane comes to John and Joe, and she offers them an investment into Bitcoin. How many of you here have heard about Bitcoin? I've heard of it in the news. You know, I've heard of Bitcoin. Has anyone else heard of Bitcoin? Yeah. So, Jane comes to John and Joe and tells them, let's invest £1,000 into Bitcoin. Who can afford to lose £1,000? John or Joe? Obviously, John. He's got £1 million in the bank. So, Joe cannot afford to lose £1,000 because that's all his money. So how much you can afford to lose is the second step in determining what your investment will be. Because if you have less money, you have to make sure that money is secure, it's safe, it's in the right place, and you're not losing it. Because if you do lose it, then you can afford to lose it. Now the last thing, after we determine these two things, is how much knowledge we have. Right? And I have a confession to make over here. I'm not the most knowledgeable in some areas of investments. For example, foreign exchange. Buying currency, so buying dollars and pounds and then selling them, and when's the best time, and the pound goes up and the pound goes down. I've got no clue. I'm terrible at it. That's the one thing you can't ask me about. So I refer to someone who knows, right? I go to someone who knows what they're talking about in terms of that. And you know why? Because in Proverbs 11:14, it says, where no counselor is, the people fall. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. If we do not have knowledge of where to invest the money in, then we can either learn that knowledge, gather it from books and seminars and stuff like that, or we can defer to a professional, because it can be quite overwhelming. So, I personally support the idea of seeking the advice of a professional. So, ask yourself, should you invest into a pension? Should you invest into a watch? What if the watch breaks? What if it loses value? What if no one wants it? What about property? Is property safe? A house, real estate, that's safe. But what if there's a flood? What if there's a fire? What if someone robs your house? What if someone goes there and squats? Squatters' rights, right? So, what's safe, what's unsafe? Do we really know what to invest in? Now, various asset classes, stocks and shares and property and commodities, they have different risks, different risk profiles, and they fit different people for different reasons. They've got different rules. So most people don't quite understand them nearly as much as they think they do. So do you know all the taxes that are related to investing into property? They are very different from the ones in stocks and shares. Capital gains tax and stamp duty and everything else. It's so confusing. How much do you know about all this? So the best investment for yourself is entirely dependent on your circumstances and your positions. So I'll show what I personally do. And bear in mind, this may not be the right thing for everyone, but it's what is best for me. And that is to invest in stocks and shares. And there's three main reasons for that. First of all, is better taxation. You pay less tax. So when they tell you about rich people not paying tax, usually it's because they're in stocks and shares. They pay a lot less tax. Then they are also far more liquid. So giving you an example of property, again, you can't sell a window when you need money, right? You can't go to your house, take a window out and sell it. That's not how property works. So if you need £5,000 and you've got £300,000 investment into property, if you need £5,000, property won't give you that £5,000. You can't sell a door, you can't sell a window to generate that type of money. But stocks and shares does. It's very liquid. So if I have the same 300,000 in stocks and shares, I can sell £5,000 so that raise the money, pay for medical bills, pay for the car bill, whatever it's needed. And lastly, they're also the most diversified investment that you can make. Now, when you invest into houses or gold or platinum or whatever you're investing in, or a watch, it's very much a single risk investment. You're putting all your eggs into one basket. But with stocks and shares, you can invest into a variety of assets. You can invest into Apple, who produces iPhones. You can invest into Pfizer, who develops vaccines and other medical stuff. Coca-Cola, you can invest into stocks and shares in Coca-Cola. You can invest in Toyota, that produces cars. You can invest in Boeing for planes and Barclays Bank and so much more. So to me, that means a lot less risk, because if I put all my money into all of these different companies, what's the likelihood that all of these companies simultaneously stop to exist in 10, 20, or 30 years from now? And the last reason is because stocks and shares have performed really, really well over the past 100 years. They've performed really, really well. So let's look at something that has gone extremely high in price recently: property. Now, if you came to the UK in the 90s, you will have seen this happen. But if you bought a house in the 90s in the UK in London, you'd probably be paying about £200,000. Now, that house today would be worth about 800,000, give or take, right? It's 4 times the price, so much more expensive. And that's a very high level of return. So people look at it and they say, wow, property seems amazing to invest in. It keeps going up and up and up. Now, if you put the same amount of money, there's 200k, into stocks and shares, nothing special, just tracking the global investment market, you have £1.8 million. That is real data. So there's a graph here that I brought in to show you. That's real data from the stock market. It goes up a lot higher than property, or at least it has done. Of course, past performance is not indicative of future performance, but all financial indicators indicate that companies tend to perform better than property. That's because companies do very well at what they do, which is selling products to people, selling coffee, selling iPhones, selling cars. They sell them very well, and they keep going up and up and up in price. They go higher than property. Again, this is my own personal strategy in investing. I just invest into stocks and shares. They may not be the right thing for you. So, if you do want to invest in stocks and shares, then consult with a financial advisor to create a suitable strategy for yourself. And another thing I wanted to mention was actually, things that we tend to find on Facebook nowadays, or Instagram or TikTok, which is a myriad or a large number of investment gurus, right, that give you unwarranted financial advice. Now, I want you to be very careful when you see these videos online, on YouTube, on Instagram, on wherever you watch them, because it does say in Matthew 7:15, beware of false prophets which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Most of these people that I see online, they're not qualified, they're not regulated to provide financial advice, yet they tell you to invest into various things that are extremely high risk, and you end up losing a lot of money. And then you lose trust in financial services professionals, people like myself, who want to do what's right for yourselves. And through my work at present, as a pensions consultant at Deloitte, I've seen this happen. I've seen countless people, thousands of people, losing money, losing their entire life savings, their entire retirement savings, because of, wolves in sheep's clothing, as they say, right? So there are a few things you want to do to check whether a financial advisor is legitimate, okay? And the number one thing you want to be doing is going to check them on the Financial Conduct Authority website. That's the FCA website. Now, you can do that by looking up FCA Register. Now, then you look up their name as a firm or an individual. That's the logo of the company. They regulate all investment products and investment advisors as well in the UK. So make sure that you check who that person is, what their credentials are they qualified, are they regulated? And the last thing you want to check as well is whether they're advising you a regulated product, right? Because a lot of products are unregulated, very high risk if they're unregulated. So you want to go into something that's regulated. Stocks and shares typically are regulated, but there are some stocks and shares that are not regulated. That's where you lose your money, or highly likely that you'll lose your money. Now, going back to stocks and shares, you may be asking yourself, okay, well, you invest in stocks and shares, why don't you invest into a pension? And the answer to that is, well, pensions are not an investment. They're an investment wrapper. It's a bit of a small difference. And what does that mean? That means they are where you put your investments in. So it wraps up your investments. So we call it an investment wrapper. That's a bit of a technical term, but it's basically just a vehicle to put your money in. So how do pensions work? Why should you consider using them? And why they're the right thing for yourself, right? Pensions in the UK involves saving money with tax relief, so you benefit from tax.
Yeah, before we continue, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Okay, you gave us an insight into performance of stocks and shares. I think not all stock and shares have really performed to a high standard, though they may be regulated.
Yes.
We've also seen certain companies that have gone into administration, which people have invested in heavily. Some of them very well-known companies that collapsed overnight.
Very true.
So, yeah. So how are you going to ensure that what you're putting your money into has a future?
Very good question, and it's true. There's a lot of companies, just recently Silicon Valley Bank, one of the biggest banks in California, in the US, they went bankrupt. The way to do it is to ensure not all your eggs are in one basket. You want to put, when you invest in stocks and shares, you want to make sure that you invest, if you're investing £100, you're not investing £100 into one stock. Because if you're investing into just the one company, that creates a lot of risk. So going back to what I said before, diversification, being the most diversified way of investing. When you're buying a house, you can only buy the one house. You can buy a percentage of that house, but usually you have to buy the one house. Whilst with stocks and shares, you can go into funds, investment funds, and those investment funds basically pool all of these stocks and shares into one fund. So say a fund costs you £100, it might invest into 1,000 stocks and shares. So the likelihood of that fund collapsing is very, very low. So that's how it usually works. It's with investment funds rather than stocks and shares directly. Does that answer your question? Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, we also realize some of the funds have also promised so much and then collapsed, like recently the Woodford?
Yes, very true. So exactly. So, well, in terms of looking at that, there's different things you want to be doing. The first one is, of course, looking at the track record of the fund, seeing how long it's been around for, and also seeing what it's invested, underlying investments are in, right? Because some of these funds, yes, they're regulated, but the person at the helm of the company may not be the most ethical person, and they may collapse it. I've seen that with some funds. I've seen that with a real estate fund as well, where the managers, the fund managers, basically lock the money. They throw the gas in it, so nobody can invest into the money anymore. They can't take the money out. They've got their money locked in. That happens quite frequently. When you invest into funds, you can invest into different funds. You don't have to buy the one fund. You can buy 10 funds. So then you've reduced your risk twice. So there's different ways of approaching that. It depends really what your personal situation is, how much risk you're prepared to take, and also what funds you're going into. The fund I shared over there that's performed quite well is simply a tracker. There's no management of it. So it's a very passive fund, and that's possibly the most preferred way to invest, is something that tracks the economy rather than tracks a fund manager or someone who is managing that money for you. So the job of an advisor really is to point you in the right direction in that regard, and to consult with someone who knows what they're talking about and gives you the detailed information as to why that fund is safer than the others. And you can actually look into it and say, okay, is this fund unsafe? Is there anything I should be aware of? What are the risks? And a good advisor should be able to tell you, what, that fund has these risks, so be aware of them. And that's basically the best way to do it, is just consulting the individual funds, and obviously there's a lot of financial analysis that goes behind it, but it's basically that, just analysing everything into a lot of detail, talking to a professional, what are the best funds to invest in. If I have £100, £1,000, how can I manage that as best as I can? And yeah, a good fund will diversify your assets in such a way that you don't lose your money, or hopefully you don't lose your money in the long term.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question, Mr. Hassan. Just as a point of reference, there will be time for Q&A after he's done with his presentation. So please, if you have a question, hold on to it, and you'll get your time to ask at the end. Thank you very much.
Okay, no problem. So, why not pensions, right? Or why pensions, sorry. Pensions in the UK involve saving money with tax relief, you know, paying less tax, which we all enjoy doing, paying as minimal tax as possible. So that's the best way to provide yourself a fund for your retirement, just through tax relief, you know. Or, you know, I know people talk about retirement, but I like to talk about financial freedom, you know, because if you're retired and you have to work, that's not really retirement, it's work with old age kind of thing, which doesn't appeal to anyone. So what is financial freedom? You know, what is retirement? Retirement is waking up in the morning, looking out the window, opening the curtains, you know, looking out the window and seeing it's grey, cold, horrible, raining, it's 8 a.m, and you go back into bed because you can't be bothered going outside. And that's retirement, that's the dream life, right? Guess what day it is? It's Tuesday. That's the day. So pensions help you achieve this life slightly quicker. And the main reason is due to the tax relief that I was talking about. If you earn over $50,000 a year, then any contribution into your pension benefits from a 25% bonus. That's given by the government. That's tax relief. So let me give you an example. You open a pensions account and you put £80 into it. The government gives you £20. And that is effectively a £100 contribution. So with £80 you contribute 100, with 160 you contribute 200, right? So it's a big difference, and with time that makes a difference. You know, it's only £20, but let's see the difference, okay? Let's imagine the same scenario of 6.5% return a year, which is, as I said, a pretty average return in the market, based on 100 years of stock market data. Now let's imagine you're 50, I don't know what your ages are, but let's say 50, and you're going to retire at 67, the typical retirement age in the UK. So that's 17 years from now. If you put £80 alone, without the £20 from the government, you know, you're just putting that into an investment account, with those £80 alone, you'll have around £29,000. Okay? But if you get that extra £20 from the government, if you put that money into a pension, you're looking at around £36,000. So an extra £7,000 in those 17 years. And that's just by putting it into a different account. That's without any work, really. It's just you put into a pension instead of a normal investment account. That's an extra £7,000. That's a massive difference in 17 years. And you may ask me now, you know, how much do I need to retire? Is 30,000 enough? That seems a little bit low. Is 35,000 enough? Probably not. That's the answer. Now, according to the Pensions and Lifetime Savings Association, as of 2021, so not even 2024, this is 3-year-old data, but the average cost per year, okay, this is your annual expenditure, is to retire for a single person is £10,900. For a couple, it's £16,700. And if you're looking at a comfortable retirement, you know, that's when you go on holiday a couple of times a year, you buy a car every 3 years, you're looking at $33,600, and if you're a couple, $49,700. But let's go with the moderate figure. Say you need $20,800 a year, or $30,600 if you're a couple. But let's say you're single, £1,733 per month. Now that's a moderate lifestyle, right? So you take a holiday once a year, you go out for dinner once or twice a month. It's a decent retirement. You have a good car, you pay for your insurance, you give your grandchildren gifts for Christmas. They're expensive, always. But how much do you need, right? You need $1,700 a month, but how much do you need to have saved up for that to happen? Now, there's a famous rule in finance called the 4% rule. There's a few books on it, actually. It's what I personally use, and what I think you should use or base yourself off. So the way you do it is, you think how much you need per month, you times that amount by 12, and then you divide it by 0.04, okay? So, as a single person, if you need £1,700 per month, you times that by 12, it gives you the 20,800, and then you divide it by 0.04. And that means you need to have saved up £520,000, £500,000 to retire, right? Just on a moderate 1,700 per month, and that's the next little bit there. There we go. Now, of course, it depends whether you have a mortgage, whether you have rent to pay, whether you have any other assets, whether you have a property that's renting out, whatever you've got, it can be counted towards this. State pension as well, we'll all get some level of state pension, hopefully. If you've worked in the UK for at least 10 years, you'll be entitled to state pension, hopefully, if you've paid national insurance contributions. But these are the numbers, and they're quite scary, right? I mean, say you're 50, and you're going to retire at 67. You have around 17 years, but let's break it down by months. That's 204 months. 204 paychecks left, right? 204 wages paid into your account for the next 17 years. That's not much when you think about it that way. 204, you can cut that down pretty easily. Now, if we were to put £520,000 aside and 204 paychecks, that would be £2,500 a month. That's a lot of money. So that's part of the reason why, I'm pleased to see so many young members in the audience, but that's the reason why you need to start as soon as possible, because the earlier you start, the longer you have, and the longer you have to grow that money, to put that money aside, the lower the effort is. If you started at 18, maybe you only need 300 a month. I don't know, you need to do the maths on that, but that's just an average, right? So the earlier you start, the better. Now, of course, you may retire as well abroad. You may go back to Ghana or wherever, and you might retire in Europe, in Spain, or in my country, in Portugal, which is the best country in Europe. I'm just kidding. But we would be wary as well of accessing UK pensions offshore. That's quite difficult. So if you are planning to retire abroad, just make sure that you consult a financial advisor on that, because that's quite a complicated thing to do. Now, besides all of these figures, maybe you have some money saved up already, okay? So, how many people have been in the UK for over 5 years? Has anyone been here for 5 years? I've been here for 5 years. What about 10 years? Yeah, oh God, you've been here forever. I hate that. you go with the main one. Yeah, so, I came from Portugal about 9 years ago. 9 years ago. And one of the good things about the UK system compared to the Portuguese system and other systems around the world in terms of pensions is auto-enrollment. That means most of you will have been auto-enrolled into a pension at some point in your life, and you see that money coming out of your account every month. Maybe you don't even know where it is, right? How do you know if you never looked? And the only thing you need to find this out, where your money is, where your pensions are in terms of different employers, is first of all the name of your employer, and then when you worked for them. So first you open up Google on your phone or your laptop and you search for Pension Tracing Service. That's the name, Pension Tracing Service. Okay. Then the second thing you do is you go into this section over here where you find the pension contact details, you press Start Now. I think you need to press a declaration saying, you agree to their cookie policy or whatever. After that, you then tell them what type of pension you're looking for. So probably a workplace pension, right? Because it's for an employer you work for, an auto-enrolled pension that you were enrolled into 5, 10, 15 years ago. So then you press continue, that little green button there, and after that, you type in your employer's name. Yeah, so I put in Google, whoever it was, then you search them up. And they will show up. There's a little link there, it says Google Ads. When you press that, it gives you their contact details. It gives them their address and the phone number for the scheme. What you do then is you pick up the phone, and to get all of your pension details, you just have to go through security and tell them, look, I've lost my pension, I'm using the pension tracing service, I just want to get more details on it. I want to update my details so you can reach out to me. And then they'll start reaching out to you. and bother you every year with paperwork. But it's absolutely fine. So that's how you find your old pensions, okay? Your pensions that you've lost track of. Now that you've got access to all your pension schemes and you figure out what you're going to invest in, how do you ensure all of this goes to plan? How do you ensure that you get to $500,000 or $1 million or 300,000 or 100,000 or whatever your goal is, regardless of what happens? And the answer most of the time is protection or insurance, as you will know it. And I want you to picture the following scenario, okay? Imagine that instead of being a finance professional, I make money-making machines. They're brilliant. They're metal. They make money. They make a whole lot of money. They make $2,000 a month. Clean money. You don't even have to pay tax on it. I give them to you. I give one machine like this to each and every single one of you. Each of you will have a machine like this making money. What's the catch, right? Why does that give you a free money-making machine? The catch is easy. The machine can malfunction. It can break down. I then come to you and I say, you know what? I can insure this machine for you for £75 a month. You pay 75 quid a month and I'll insure this machine fully, its services, including the maintenance and all of that. Would you pay for that insurance? Is that insurance worth the money? £75 a month to protect 2,000. Is that worth it? Or should you take the risk? And the answer is, well, it's different for every single one of us. Some of us are prepared to take the risk, some of us are not prepared to take the risk. But the reality is, the money-making machine is you. You're the person making the money, bringing the money home, buying the food, paying the rent. And the reality is, if you don't have insurance for yourself, then you put yourself liable to all these things. And the younger you are, the cheaper it is to get insurance, So the quicker you get it, the better. But it protects you if you're ill. And that's in Proverbs 27:12. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. And I know we don't like to think about illness or death. It's an uncomfortable topic, it's a nasty topic to talk about most of the time, right? Nobody likes thinking about it. We always put it in the back of our head and we pray and we do everything, but the reality is it's there. And, what if we got cancer? What if we had a heart attack? Right? Who thinks about these things, really? And what if you died? Can your children afford to pay the mortgage? Or can they afford to pay the rent? Are they old enough to pay rent? What would they do if you passed away right now? Would they be okay? Can they pay for their university? Can they pay for their education? What can they pay for? Can they actually afford it? Now, Ecclesiastes 9:12 says, "For man also knoweth not his time, as the fishes are taken in an evil net, and as the birds that are caught in the snare, so are the sons of men snared in an evil time, when it falleth suddenly upon them." Let's not forget these are the Bible's words, right? And evil may befall any of us, God forbid, of course, but it may happen suddenly. And what if you're not protected? Why then should we not get insurance? Why should we not cover ourselves? We pay for insurance for our cars. Why can't we pay for insurance for ourselves? For the event of unforeseeable danger, unforeseeable evil. This to me is paramount, and it goes back to me saying it's the most important thing in a financial plan. Adequate financial planning always ensures that your insurance and protection needs are met. Because the last thing you want is when if you did get cancer, if that did happen, you're going to the doctors, you're going to the GPs, you're going to radiotherapy or chemotherapy or all these different things, and all the blood tests, the stress, and alongside of this, you need to keep going into work. Because you're going to lose the house if you don't, right? So you're not able to pay for food if you don't, because the reality is the supermarkets won't give you free food. You don't get a free cancer card where you go there and say, "Oh, here you are paying for it." They don't care. Unfortunately, they don't. The landlord doesn't care. The bank doesn't care. Nobody cares except ourselves. And that's very sad, of course, but it's the reality of the world we live in, and we have to be frank and honest about it. But of course, Romans 12:21 also says, "Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good." So always be good, always give out. Always, you can't stop evil from happening, but we can be good ourselves. So that's also something to lighten up the mood. So if insurance protects you from financial ruin and ensures that you are able to reach a comfortable retirement, why shouldn't you take it? But how much insurance do you actually need? And again, the answer is it depends. Most answers in today's seminar are it depends. Depends on your personal circumstances. If you don't have any children, you probably don't need life insurance. Who are you leaving the money to? So it depends. So that's basically it, right? You need to figure out how much is affordable when it comes to insurance, what is a realistic scenario, and whether that insurance is worthwhile based on the cost of it, right? And it could be, I've seen insurance policies £600 a month, that's probably too much for most people. I've seen insurance policies at £20 a month, and that's pretty much the most fundamental thing for most people. So, you need to ask yourself, how much do I currently have saved up? If you have 3,000 in the bank, right? Could you survive for the next 3 months? How would that go? These are the types of questions you need to be asking yourself. What about the next 3 to 5 years? Do you have enough money to save up to protect yourself for 3 to 5 years? Probably not. I certainly don't, and I probably should. But that's the average length of time for someone to recover from cancer, for example. If you did get treatment for cancer, it takes about 3 to 5 years for a full recovery. And that is pretty much the conclusion of today's seminar. So going back to what I said from the very start, number one is to change your mentality, okay? Remember to pay yourself first, set up a direct debit, and put that money aside every month. When it comes to achieving big results, the small changes matter. So, stop eating those meal deals, stop going out for the coffees, and make sure you're saving up all of those pennies. They make a big, big difference. 2, make sure you pick the right investment for you. Don't fall into the trap of buying property or buying gold just because the TikToker told you to, or buying the wrong stocks and shares, the wrong fund that may collapse, right? That's something that does worry most people, but make sure to talk to a variety of qualified and regulated financial advisors to discuss the best options for yourself. 3, calculate how much you need. Okay, don't forget the 4% rule. The formula is very simple. How much you want per month times by 12 divided by 0.04. Okay? That is basically how you figure out how much money you need to retire. And 4, track down your old pensions. Don't forget to track them down using the pension tracing service. It's a free service by the government. It's pretty good. And 5, don't ever forget insurance. Okay? It's very, very important, and I can't stress that enough. I know it sounds like, giving a sales pitch about insurance. I don't sell insurance really, but it's important. I have insurance myself. I got it very young, so it's very cheap. But the longer you postpone it, the more expensive it becomes. So make sure you look out for that and consider the various options. You can certainly find something for yourselves to do, right? And that's it. Hopefully that was good. Hopefully that was valuable. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. And if you could, I would like to ask you to fill out this little form. It's a feedback form. It will help the church as well, because the church wants to know if you liked it, if you didn't like it. So if you could fill that out, that would be really great. And if you'd like to learn more about it, or you'd like to talk to someone about it, like myself, I'm happy to have a conversation. I don't charge for any initial consultation, so it's just a phone call. It doesn't really hurt. And if you need any help with anything, I'm here for you and to help you out. Okay, thank you very much. If you've got any questions, now's the time.
Hello.
Thank you very much for your lecture and advice. If you want to make an investment and then you realize that the company is not listed or regulated by the FCA, does it mean that that company is not worth investing in?
Well, if it's not regulated by the FCA, it means that your money is likely not protected. So part of the work I'm doing at the moment, it goes into that of safeguarding your money. Investments that are not regulated by the FCA are typically not covered for, if you lost your money like your bank. So when you put money into the bank, it's covered up to £85,000, right? Your investments are the same. If the investment collapses for whatever reason, and not about investment performance, but about collapsing for whatever reason, there's mismanagement or whatever it was, then you're covered. So I would say that, if it's not regulated by the FCA, be very wary of it, because it's definitely higher risk. Now, that's not to say that you can't invest into non-FCA products, but it does mean that your money is at higher risk. So you should be prepared to lose it, is the fundamental answer of that.
Hello, thank you again for your session. I want to talk about investment. Recently, a lot of people, companies, are advertising for different types of investments. And currently, I've seen something like Richard Branson, who, if I'm correct, a multi-millionaire. And he's talking about this type of insurance investment where if you put about £200, you just sit back and see your money grow. At the end of the month or quarter, you're talking about thousands, you're going to get out from that £200 per year. May I find out if you can trust this sort of investment, because when they're tempted, some that are dancing, you cannot doubt him.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else is multi-millionaire, and he's advertising all the time. So what do you think about this sort of investment?
Okay, thank you for your question. So first of all, I've not seen this, so it's a bit difficult to give an answer to that. But what I would say is, Richard Branson got rich from his own company, right, Virgin, and he also comes from different backgrounds as well. If he's advising those types of investments, I would very much read the fine print. I would look at whether it's FCA regulated again, because one thing I do know is that he's not FCA regulated himself as an advisor. So it may seem like it comes from a person of authority, and that's actually one of the biggest issues we find is with YouTubers and whatnot. They have 1 million, 2 million, 3 million followers, they're driving a Lamborghini, and you think, well, why should I trust them? And the truth is because, well, they're not qualified to do so, they're not regulated to do so, and what may seem like the right thing may not be the right thing for yourself personally. So you have to look into it in a lot of detail and make sure that it's 100% the right thing for you. In terms of growing your money substantially, the only way I've seen to grow money substantially is through work and diligently saving. Money, if you put £200 into an investment and it promises you unrealistic returns, which would be thousands in 3 months, it's probably not true. Because if it's too good to be true, it's usually too good to be true.
Well, we're talking about stock and shares.
Stocks and shares into
that kind of outcome.
right.
If you put your money into stock and share the bonds, then you can foresee that you're going to get that kind of money coming through by the day or by the week or by the month.
Okay.
Or those kind of investment doubles up by the minute.
Okay, so you're saying contribute every month and see that money grow.
No, you just put in your money in, for example, £200
Yes.
and they go, and then you see your money grow.
So, well, if you're investing in stocks and shares, it's exactly right. Your money will hopefully grow over the long term. What I would say about stocks and shares as well is look at it from a 5-year perspective. If you're looking at it from a week or monthly perspective, the likelihood of losing money is very high. I think the likelihood of losing money if you're invested into the stock market in 1 month is 50%. In 1 year, I think it's 40%. When it goes down to 5 years, it drops down to 20%. And then 20 years, or 10%, sorry. And then 20 years is 1%. So the longer you're invested for, the less likely you are to lose money. But when you do make investments into stocks and shares, money will go up and it will go down, and it will go up and it will go down depending on the market conditions. Hopefully it keeps going up over the long term, but I'll never look at it from a short-term perspective. I'm not sure if that answers your question though.
Yeah, I know that stock and shares fluctuates.
Yeah.
Ups and down.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the talk. I have a personal problem with this, whether it was savings with from my perspective, it's from my bankers. I was approached by one bank, and instead of doing because you didn't talk about ISA, but I did stock and what was it? And shares. Investment, and they because it's through a bank, I thought I was safe, and I didn't put it in to get an immediate return. It was like for at least more than 5 years. But what I realized is at that point, 5 years, prior to that, my husband was very, very upset with me, saying that I should just have put it in a cash ISA. I would have gone like a steady interest or whatever. But I said that, well, this is from the bank and I think I can do well. They will not put me at risk, which wasn't true at all, because they put me at risk, and at the time we are talking about 5 years, we should have made my money grow. The money was rather down, and I'm just giving an example, like from 7,000, it went down to 5,000. So I was thinking, what am I going to do? I went to see them because I thought they should protect my money, but because they should know where to invest for me not to lose so much. But then I was told that it's the market, and they will advise me not to cash in and leave it for another few more years, which is what I did. Then it got to a time that I had it got to 7,000, which is an example. Maybe then I should have cashed in, but I thought, oh, it's doing so well. So I left it in. Before I knew it, it went right down again. And they never informed me. And they only sent me this yearly statement, and I'm thinking when I had it last year, I nearly wept so immediately. I went to cash in because I don't understand why my money is losing so much when I should have put it in cash ISA, which was doing better. So I went to cash in, and that was the end of that. Another example is then I was approached by Barclays because I have a cash ISA with them, and they kept advising me to invest in the stock and shares. And then at the end of it, they always said that your money is at risk. And I'm thinking, if my money is at risk, why are you asking me to move money that I think is safe? I might not get a lot on it, but to me, that money is there, is safe. I'm not losing. And you are the bank, and you are the ones who know, and you are telling me I should invest, and then tell me again that, oh, my money is at risk. So when you are in that situation, what do you do? And then another thing is they kept asking me to take a loan from them, and the percentage I have to pay. And I'm thinking, you are not even giving me that percentage on my ISA. So why are you asking me to take a loan when I have that money there? And you are taking my money, and I have a problem. So there are some things that I think we need to really look at when we want to invest or put money away for our future use. That's what I'm thinking anyway, because I was a victim, and I don't know how other people, maybe I'm not the only victim. Maybe that's
no, absolutely you're not.
Thank you.
I've had a lot of clients in the past in similar positions to yourself. I had a client with Barclays actually, with a cash ISA, and they transferred their money into a stocks and shares ISA with ourselves. This was like a while back, maybe last year or something. The reality is, I've had clients invest money with me, and 6 months later their money is down, and it's down by 10-20%. So in your example, if someone makes a £10,000 investment, maybe the money is worth £7,000 after 1 year, and it may stay like that for 2-3 years. What you tend to see is over the very long term, 5, 10, 15 years, that's when you start seeing returns on your money, and when you start seeing money grow and grow and grow. The reason for that is because of the financial cycle, the economic cycle. So when other factors are at play that we have no control over happen, for example, interest rates rising, that's the Bank of England who decides that, or a financial crisis, COVID, none of us are at fault for that, and usually the money goes down when that happens. So the ultimate thing to do is just sometimes is to hold fast to it. But a strategy to minimize that is through what we call a stop loss strategy. So what that does is, say you're not willing to lose more than 10% of your money, you put 7,000 in, you don't want to lose more than £700. If the money drops below 6,300, it sells, it cashes it in. So it's a stop loss strategy. It's a very real way of managing risk. And then you use that for investing into another thing that may do more money, or just cashing it in, holding it in cash for a while. I had a client as well who was invested in stocks and shares, the money dropped, and then he said, I want to cash it in, I want to put it in cash, and I said, wait just 6 months please. And it was the best decision he made, because it grew substantially over the past 12 months, and he was just super happy about it. So the reality is, banks may not be the safest, so you have to be careful with banks as well. Everyone's out for themselves, I feel, in this world, and banks are the same. But there are ways of putting your money into the right investment, into the right thing for yourself, into the right level of risk for yourself, where you don't lose the money, you can't afford to lose, which goes back to that example I gave as well of John and Joe. If you've got less money to invest, then that's something that needs to be looked at holistically and from a wide perspective. What banks don't tend to do is do that. They just go, well, invest into a stock such as ISA. They send the same exact message to all of their clients. They don't care if you've got 1,000, 10,000, or 100,000, but if you've only got 10,000, then you shouldn't be investing 10,000 in stocks and shares, because if it does go down, then it's very worrisome. It causes you to sell, it causes you to panic, it causes you stress. You can't sleep at night because it's your entire life savings. It's gone down by £2,000. What are you going to do now? That type of stuff is very, very important. So it's something that when you talk to someone, a qualified and regulated professional, they should be having this entire conversation with you about, what can you do if you've got this amount of money. The first thing I would say right away would be, don't put all of your money in. Keep some of it in cash, because you might need it. If your car breaks down, or, you need there's an emergency, whatever there is, right? You need access to cash, you want to have some cash saved up. So it's just about who you're speaking to and the types of conversations you're engaging with these people. It's very, very important, because, you maybe missold a product. So definitely something to bear in mind when you're speaking to people is, are they advising you or are they selling to you? Because there's a big, big difference in advising and selling. Wise counsel or just a sales pitch. And the reality is, wise counsel takes into account everything, including your personality, including your values, including what you can afford to lose, what you want to put at risk, what you don't want to put at risk. all of these conversations need to be had in order to give you proper financial planning advice. So the bank's not always the safest because it's a mass market message that's not tailored to you, not personal to you, not bespoke to you, and then stuff like that happens where you missold the product, the money's gone down, then you're stressed, then you're worried. So yeah, well, I feel sorry as well, by the way, if that happened. It's bad, but it's something to bear in mind for the future now. And yeah, does that answer the question? Good.
So I just want to ask, maybe for like a younger person who hasn't really started investing in anything, who started making money quite recently, what would you recommend for them in terms of starting off investing in?
Well, I get this question quite a lot, especially from friends of mine as well, where they're always like, you know money, what do I do? What do I do? Well, it depends, right? So you can pass them back the mic because I've got a few questions for you first and foremost. So firstly, what would you want the money for? Like if you're investing your money, what's the purpose of that? Is it to buy a house or for a car or for driving lessons or?
I think I'm not 100% sure yet. I just want to start doing it for a period of time and then see what happens in the future. Obviously, it is going to be a long-term thing, but
okay.
I'm not exactly sure yet.
So you're looking at 5+ years or something like that, yeah? So there's a few different types of accounts, right? One of the best ones for young people is available to everyone who's 18 and above, all the way to 40, okay? If you're under 40 and you're over 18, it's called a lifetime ISA. So this woman, this lady over here was talking about, sorry, this beautiful lady over here was saying cash ISA. There's something called a lifetime ISA, right, for young adults. And if you put £100 in, the government gives you £25 for free. That money can be used. Now, first of all, that money will be locked until you're 60. So unless you can expect to only access it at 60, then don't use it. But the other reason to use this account is for your first house, which I think is the most important thing for a young person nowadays, is buying your first home. That's my opinion. That's what I've done anyway. And you can put up to £4,000 a year into it. That's £333 a month. And that allows you to get £1,000 from the government free every year. Then you can put that money to your house deposit because they allow you to put that money to your house deposit. So that's free money, basically. So if you're doing that every year, £300 a month, you're earning your money, you put £300 a month every month aside into a lifetime ISA. After 5 years, you've got 25 grand. You've put 20,000 in, the government's giving you 5 over the course of 5 years. So that's a really, really good way of saving up for your house deposit. And one of the most quick ways of saving up for your house deposit, because it's 25% bonus, is quite significant. In terms of investing for the future, ISAs and stocks and shares ISAs are one of the best things as well. You can invest into, I know you're proud of that, but depending on the investment you pick, that may be very, very good for you. It depends on the time frame of your investment, how much you can afford to lose, of course, and your values, etc., etc. But there's so many different funds and investments that you can opt for that will generate substantial returns over the long term. But every small bit counts. So even if you're starting with £10 a month, right, over the course of 10 years, you're going to think back at it and say, wow, thank God I did that, because it adds up very, very quickly and it grows very quickly. Once you get to a certain amount of money, then when you see it grow, it's phenomenal, because you're seeing money grow by 5-10 grand a year, and you're thinking, wow, the money's growing so much, and it's just because you've got a lot of it. But it does happen very, very quickly, and the younger you start, the quicker that money will grow. But hopefully that sort of answers your question, and gives you a little product to look into, which is a lifetime ISA.
What's your view on investment into crypto?
into crypto are very interesting. So, cryptocurrencies, I'll be a whole lecture in itself, a whole seminar, 1 hour talking about them. Cryptocurrencies are a currency, a form of currency, like buying pounds, or buying euros, or buying dollars. As I said, foreign exchange is not really my area of expertise. Crypto is interesting because it works slightly different from normal currencies, depending on the currency as well. But crypto is a very, very, very high risk, high volatility investment. It goes up and down very, very quickly. It can go up substantially. But if I told you, okay, I'm giving you £100, you've got the ability, you're investing £100 with me, I'll grow your money to 200. I may also lose it all. Would you give me £100? Probably not. And that's the thing with crypto, right? So, if you want quick gains, crypto may provide them, but they also may make you lose all of your money. So, yeah, it works in a very, very, very peculiar way. It's quite a complicated way. And the problem as well with crypto, or one of the concerns I have with crypto, is the platforms in which you or buy crypto with. They're not typically very secure. So those are my thoughts on crypto. I give you an hour of my thoughts on crypto, but hopefully that's a succinct answer and gives you a bit of insight into my thoughts on it. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please, I would like you to enlighten us on Bitcoin. I've been hearing on it, I don't know how it works.
On Bitcoin, okay. So, Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. Okay. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, and the way it works is you've got computers who are always running this maths equation, okay? They run mathematical questions all the time, and those mathematical questions produce Bitcoin. Okay, they produce a very, very little amount of Bitcoin. Now, because our computers are so advanced nowadays, they produce it a little bit faster than they used to, and that's become a whole industry in itself. But Bitcoin is just a store of value and a means of transaction because it's stored digitally. So it's a way of holding money, like gold or like dollars or pounds. If you get money in the bank. It's the same thing with Bitcoin. The reason Bitcoin has become so popular and why it's talked about so much is because it's a cryptocurrency and it's become very, very trend. Its value is entirely subjective on what people place value in. So if I came to you and I said, you know what, this microphone is very beautiful, I'll sell it to you for £50, and you said, actually, I don't think it's worth £50. I think it's worth 25. Yeah, but at least it's worth something. Bitcoin, it's all in the mind. It's all in the computer. So whether you find value in it or not is entirely dependent on what people are using it. Now, the reason I don't typically recommend Bitcoin is due to the high risk of it and because of its purpose, which the purpose of Bitcoin was to use as a means of exchange. So if I sell you this for £25, maybe I could sell you this for half a Bitcoin or whatever, right? Bitcoin is just a coin to change money with, right? To buy things with and to sell things for. The problem is it's not used for that. So because it's not used for that, then it sort of loses a little bit of its purpose and loses a little bit of its value, at least in my opinion. And that's my thoughts on it. And hopefully that explains a little bit about what Bitcoin is. It's sort of a coin that's stored digitally, a currency that's stored digitally. So it's pounds in the computer kind of thing. Does that sort of explain it? Does that make sense? It's a very complex topic and it's quite complicated to explain, but it's effectively just that. It's a coin that's stored in, or a currency that's stored digitally, and it's created digitally. And actually the government has no control over it or access to it because they're not the ones producing it. Everyone can use their phone to manufacture Bitcoin up to a certain level. Anyone can do it with their computers and etc. So it's a decentralized currency. So at the moment we've got centralized currencies. So the Bank of England decides how many pounds are in circulation. They want to make £1 million. in currency printed out. They can print out £1 million in currency. You've got no control over that. With Bitcoin, it's a little bit decentralized, so everyone around the world can manufacture Bitcoin, can produce Bitcoin, because it's all done via the computer. So it's sort of a way of taking power away from the government, which may be good, but also may be bad if the government decides the bad thing and they shut that down and you lose all your money. That may be bad as well. So yeah, that's what Bitcoin is. It's just a form of currency, a form of buying things and selling things with a different name, really. Bitcoin is the pounds.
You did not say anything about this. With regard to investment, there are other types like government bonds. Can you shed a little bit of light on that? And is it also something that one can consider?
Yeah. So yeah, bonds can be invested through stocks and shares account as well, by the way. When you open up a stocks and shares account, they've got bond options as well, and funds with bonds. Bond funds tend to do very well when interest rates are low, okay, because money in the bank is not so attractive as bonds are. Bonds are a coupon. Well, they're not a coupon, they pay coupons, like a piece of paper. And that piece of paper will say, we'll pay you 3% a year for however many years until it matures in 10 years' time. That's how bonds work. Government bonds are exactly that. In the UK, they're called gilts. So they're issued by the UK government. They're very, very strong because the UK government's got a really strong credit rating worldwide. And so it's basically impossible for them to default. Almost impossible for them to default, right? It's as safe as your money could be, even possibly safer than putting your money in the bank. Because you've got, it's government backed, right? It's made by the government. And the way you're doing it is you're lending money to the government. That's what bonds are. So a bond is when you're lending money to the government, or a company like Apple will raise debt through bonds, and they offer you a certain coupon, which is the interest that you earn on it. So it's effectively like you're the bank and you're lending money to the UK government, and everyone does it, and companies do it at a very large scale. Pension companies do it very, very often. And they put pension money into bonds, into government bonds, and the government basically then uses that money to invest into the economy, and that's how bonds sort of work. You can invest into bonds through several ways. I think the easiest one is probably the National Savings and Investment website, if you've heard of it. They've got premium bonds and different types of bonds. So that's the quickest and easiest way. You just go there, you set up an account, national insurance number, first name, last name, details, whatever, and then you open up a National Savings and Investment account, and you can invest your money into bonds through there. And all of them are a little bit different, but they're all pretty much the same. They pay an interest to you. And that interest is usually slightly better than the one you get at the bank. Does that sort of answer the question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And you've mentioned all different kinds of investments.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are to advise a lay person, which one is the safest? Number two, if somebody is 50 plus and has no pension, what kind of advice do you give to the person, please?
Right. Tough question. Because it's sort of like going to. Okay, so let me try and address this. So first and foremost, what's the safest? I mean, it depends. Again, I know I've been saying that a lot today, but I know stocks and shares can seem very unsafe. But likewise, when you look at it from a 20-year point of view, they tend to be far less unsafe than, for example, cash in the bank. And the reason for that is inflation. So if you put cash in the bank, as this lady was saying as well, you're not getting much. And the reality is, with inflation, over the long term, that money will be eroded, the value of your money will be eroded. So that means you'll have less money. So £10 today buys nothing. £10 10 years ago bought a few things. And so cash is not always the safest. So if you leave £10 in the bank for the past 10 years, you have £10 today. So actually you've lost money because you can't buy what you could 10 years ago with the £10. But if you put it in stocks and shares, right, now I know it's a scary thought, but the reality is that money would have hopefully gone up ever so slightly to sort of meet the inflation. So it depends on your time frame, and it depends as well on you know, the type of what the target is, what the goal is, what the objective is. So would you say that, you know, in terms of as an objective, would the goal be to preserve your money? Would the goal be to grow your money? That's the type of questions you want to be answering and asking yourself as well. Because based on the answers to those questions, then you can sort of formulate a plan as to, you know, what is the most suitable or what's the safest. If you mean the safest is in, you know, my money will never go down, then cash is the best. Right? Your money will never go down except via inflation, which is sort of a stealth, you know, a hidden way of destroying the value of your money. If you're looking at it from a way of, you know, I want my money to keep up with inflation, then maybe bonds and gilts may be the best option for you, because that's also very, very, very safe. And you know, they pay you a guaranteed interest every month and every year or every quarter, depends on the bond. Yeah, I think there's different types of, and if you're saying, you know, it's 20 years until I access my money, then guaranteed stocks and shares tend to be the best investment. 99 out of 100 times, 99% of the time, stocks and shares for 20-year plus investments tend to be the safest because it keeps up with inflation and it usually beats inflation as well. So it's very, very good in that regard in terms of being a safe bet for the future. I hope that answers your question. I know it's a bit more complex than you'd think, but as I said, it's very dependent on the individual person, what your goals are, what your objectives are, where you want to be, how much you can afford to lose, all these different aspects.
You also asked about if someone. Sorry. I don't think you've answered the second part of
the 50
yes,
years.
the second part of
sorry, which was the 50.
Somebody 50.
Someone who hasn't got any.
Someone who doesn't have any pension money. You're very right. Sorry about that. Got lost. Okay, so if you've got no pension at the moment and you're over the age of 50, well, the best time to start is yesterday. The second best is today, first and foremost. So start there. Second of all is you want to see how much state pension you're entitled to. So hopefully you're entitled to some level of state pension. And then you want to create a plan. You know, there's several things you can do, and probably not the nicest things you'd want to hear, but the reality is there's very few things you can do, and one of them is you postpone your retirement date by a couple of years, so you have a few more years to save. And the other thing is you reduce the quality of life at retirement to match the amount of money you've got. In terms of, you know, what you can do in terms of building that wealth up from now until then, it's just diligence and saving slowly and making sure that you're doing the right decisions from now forward. We all wish we could sort of change our past sometimes, and you know, if I knew this 20 years ago, but the reality is that you know it now, so hopefully you make some impactful decisions today to sort of, or tomorrow, or Monday, to sort of impact that. If you don't have you know, any savings whatsoever, there's also help from the government for people who are retired. I think it's called pension credit. I'd have to look into it a little bit more detail, but usually you get state pension and then you get pension credit as well, and that tops it up ever so slightly. But yeah, usually it's just about reducing it, reducing lifestyle expectations at retirement, and also postponing retirement and
sometimes you see it a lot working part-time as well, like at Tesco's or whatever, which is a very sad outcome in life, but it does happen very often where you see, an elderly gent doing it. And the last thing you can do is just rely on your children as well, a little bit, You've helped them, you've raised them, they can help you a little bit as well. I sure will help my mom. But, it's the reality of many people. My mom included, by the way, so, I know where you're coming from. She's 50 now, and she's also got the many savings, so she's a bit like, I didn't know you have to do that. Well, now you know. But it's okay, you've got children, you sort of rely on that a little bit. Hopefully that answers the question now.
Just on the same topic, if someone or is just starting around 50 and is just starting paying into a pension plan, especially like a workplace pension plan, and you did your calculation and you think you're going to need more money at your retirement, is it advisable to do an additional voluntary contribution or have another pension plan, or you add a little bit more, or rather put money into a savings account?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're over the age of 50 and you've not got many savings, or you just started a workplace pension scheme, the first thing I would ask actually is your employer, how much do you match my pension? Because some employers match up to 10%, so if you put 10% in, they put 10% in as well. It's pretty significant. You earn 2,000 a month, you put 200, they put 200, now you're saving 400. Pretty good. So it depends on the employer, right? So that's the first thing I would ask your employer, workplace pension, what are the benefits? A lot of them just offer the minimum, others offer more, so that's one of the things you want to look into. And then after that is, additional voluntary contributions as much as you can. You just top it up as much as you can afford every single month. When you get a bonus, you put a little bit more into that. When you don't get a bonus, you don't. And it's just saving, and saving diligently. And that's the best thing you can do, really. You're right on that, where save as much as you can, basically, into a pension, because you can get the tax relief. And that's the biggest sort of benefit of it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a personal problem. I got to the pension age last year.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I have not qualified for the pension, basically the basic pension scheme, because I only worked for 4 years.
Okay.
And so in this case, how do I get to top up? Because I was told to top up with about £4,000 so that I can be qualified for the state pension.
Right.
So if I don't have the 4,000, how do I top it up? Is there any agency or any charity that can help with those plans, please?
So I'm not aware of any charity that will help you in that regard for topping it up. But yes, you would have to top it up. Where you find that money, maybe if you've worked for 4 years, maybe you have some money in your pensions, your existing pensions, to top that up. So if you've been auto-enrolled into a pension, you may have some money saved up that you were not expecting. So using that pension tracing service, you can find out, how much money you've got in these pensions. Maybe you've got 2,000-3,000, there's only 1,000 that you need to put in. So that would probably be the best step forward, is checking how much you've got in your existing pension. I'm not sure if you've done that already. And seeing how much you've got there, that's usually sort of a nice lump of money that you have at retirement that you didn't really realize you have. So if you've been working for 4 years and you've got 4 years of contributions, maybe you have other years as well that you've been here. But topping it up is done by the government website, National Insurance Contribution Top Up, which they've told you is about £4,000 you need to top up by. That's something I've seen a lot happen. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any charities that do that type of thing. existing pensions, see if you've got any money there to sort of help you towards that goal. Otherwise, I don't think there's much you can do, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eduardo. I think your seminar is an eye-opener, and our congregation is an aged one. I think I would say the average age of members will be well into their 40s, early 50s. Now, those, I think Mr. Afanu did ask the question earlier, but for those who haven't actually or were not aware of things like this and would want to get into it and, you know, try and get something aside for the future, what sort of 5-year plan would you recommend for such people, and as to what would the end benefit be, what would they be able to get out of it? What sort of plan could you put aside, prepare for them, please?
Well, if you're doing a 5-year plan, I would say the first thing to do is, debts, get rid of them as quickly as you can. Then after that, it sort of follows a snowball effect. But before you do debts, you want to do it at the same time as you getting rid of debts, is build up an emergency fund, cash emergency fund. So you want to have an emergency fund, covers you for at least 3 months of expenses. So say that your expenses are $2,000 a month, you want to have $6,000 in the bank at all times. So if anything goes wrong, you lose your job, you've got 3 months bills to pay. Okay? Then you get rid of your debts as well. You don't have any debt to pay. That makes a massive difference. And the last thing you do is you start saving, and you save diligently. 200, 100, 50, however much you can afford, you put that money aside every month into a pension. Especially if you're in your 40s, right? So you start saving that money aside, put that money aside into a pension. And that will grow, and it will go up and up and up slowly, especially with the tax relief. As I said, £80 is 100, so 160 is 200. So 160 doesn't seem so difficult compared to 200, right? But the government gives you those £40, so it's free money every month. After a year, that's £480 a year. So after 5 years, it's about £2,500, give or take, in my head. So it's about, with time and with the 5-year plan, what I would say is, first of all, define your objectives, which would be, first of all, you want to define your objectives, and then you want to get rid of debt, build your emergency fund, and save diligently. Because once you define your objectives, then it makes it much easier to get them set.
Hello. I want to ask if anybody's got any papers.
Sorry, could you say again?
I want to ask if anybody living in this country has got his stay, how will he access to this pension thing?
I'm not sure I understand the question. So if someone is living in this country...
Yeah, he hasn't got papers to work. Oh, yeah.
Oh, an undocumented person. Oh, difficult one. Put it under the mattress, I guess. It's a bit difficult, because if you don't have documentation to work in the UK, it may be quite difficult to open up a pension and all of these different things, because they all need national insurance number and all of these different things. The government's regulated it a lot. It's not what it used to be, unfortunately. Potentially, I would say, it would be looking at things that you can sort of carry with yourself. So in that case, and this is where I say, it's very dependent on the individual. Commodities make a lot more sense than, gold, platinum, all that type of stuff, all those types of metals make more sense to keep in, because you can't really put money, I don't know if you can open a bank account without national insurance number, maybe you can, as long as you have residency. But maybe bank accounts, with interest paying accounts, like savings accounts, fixed term accounts, shop and buy, that retains its value. That may be the best option there, but obviously it depends. It's a very difficult question to answer because obviously it's difficult to find a solution when you don't have, unfortunately, documentation to sort of open anything up or create anything. It's quite difficult because it's very regulated in that regard. So pensions would not be the best vehicle for that in that regard, but maybe for other things would be.
What do you think would be the best investment parents could do for a child?
Parents to do for their child. We're actually speaking to Mr. Julius about doing a seminar for this, for children's investments and young people investing and whatnot, and going into more detail into that and creating a plan for them. For a child, it depends whether you want to save for their education or you want to save for their retirement. If you want to save for their retirement, a junior pension is the best vehicle, because again, £80 turns to 100, and then they get that money at 57. So when they're proper older, when they're older, then they get access to the money. So it's kind of a way to sort of stop them from spending it as soon as they turn 18. It's a really good way of ensuring that they have a really, really good future, because if a 5-year-old starts a pension, you can bet that they'll have a lot of money when they're 60. And that's sort of the best thing you can do for them. In terms of education or paying for a car, paying for a driving license, which obviously is fundamental, a junior ISA is the best option because the money's tax-free, and you can put up to £9,000 a year into it. But it's a really good vehicle because it's 100% tax-free, so any money you put into it, when they access it, it's tax-free. So if it's grown, great, it's all tax-free, and that is the best vehicle for a child. So junior ISAs, junior pensions.
Is it possible?
Go for it.
Is it possible to have paid into the pension plan without knowing? Because before, paying into workplace pension was optional and wasn't that popular.
Yeah.
People may have worked somewhere where deduction had been made from their salary for pension without knowing. How do you trace that?
Yeah, so again, if you go into Google, onto the pension tracing service, as long as you've got your employer's name, you can pretty much find, and when you work there, what years you work there, you can find out if you've got old pensions or not, because it will tell you what pension scheme they had. What you then do is you ring the telephone number and you give them your name, you give them your date of birth, you tell them you're trying to find your old pension, see if you've got any pension with them, and then they may tell you, oh, you've got a pension with Aviva or Aegon or Legal & General, one of the big ones. Got £2,000 a year or £3,000 a year, you've saved this up, it's been invested, it's grown a little bit. Then they give you all the information once you reach out to them.
Please, does this also apply to companies that have gone bust? So
Yes.
if you're working with a company that is no longer in existence, would it still be something you could, look out?
Yeah, absolutely. So regardless of whether the company exists still or not, the pension scheme will still be there, because pension schemes are protected and regulated by the UK government and by the FCA. So even if a pension scheme's gone bust, the money will have gone to a new pension scheme who will have absorbed the clients of that scheme. So that they'll give you all that information on the pension tracing service, and you can find out basically, any old pensions that you have, even for old companies that you've worked for that they don't exist anymore. Yeah, your pensions will be there, safe and sound. If you've put any money into the pension anyway, that they will be there, regardless of whether the company's gone bust or not.
While employment, a certain percentage of my monthly salary was deducted as a national insurance contribution. Eventually, if I got pension, would the total total amount of contributions made be taken into consideration in determining my
Microphone problems.
Eventually, when I go on pension, would the Inland Revenue take into consideration the amount of national insurance contributions I have made?
Yeah, so that's for the government, actually. So any national insurance contributions you've made, and like the lady over here was saying, they count towards your overall state pension. So if you go onto the government website again and you look up the state pension forecast, they'll tell you exactly how much state pension you'll get based on the national insurance you've put in. Okay, and it's a relatively easy formula, but minimum is 10 years that you will have to work in the UK for to get state pension, and the maximum is 35. So if you've worked for over 10 years, you're entitled to UK state pension up to a maximum of 35 years. If you work 36, they'll still give you, but they'll only give you for the 35 years. They won't give you for the 36. They're not that nice, unfortunately. But yeah, you can check this out on the government website. It's called State Pension Forecast. Okay, and you Google that, you put in your details, it will tell you how much you're entitled to as a state pension from the age of retirement onwards. Does that answer your question?
Okay, thanks everyone. In the interest of time, I think we will end our Q&A there. We only have this room for a couple more minutes. I think what we might try to do as the feedback form goes around, maybe if anyone has any additional questions, we can sort of collect that and forward them over to the board.
Yeah.
He might provide, he might answer them to the best of his ability. So I think this takes us to the end of today's proceedings. So I will shortly come up and give the vote of thanks.
Thank you.
So I hope everyone found today's seminar very informative. I think we are all definitely leaving here better informed than when we came back, which is always the aims and objectives of these seminars. As I said, we will be sending out feedback forms just to sort of collect feedback to know how this service went out, which will help us with the planning of future seminars. So I will just quickly, just to wrap up, just do the vote of thanks very quickly. So first and foremost, we start off thanking the Almighty God. Without him, none of us would be here today. So we thank him for providing us with the opportunity for all of us to come down here and better inform ourselves with regards to the decisions to take for the future. We'd also like to thank our Honourable Speaker for today, Mr. Eduardo. I think we can all give him for taking time out of this weekend to come and speak to us today. I think it's been very informative. I also like to thank everyone here in the audience for taking time this morning/afternoon to come down and listen and to be informed and to empower yourselves with information to make better decisions for yourselves and for your children as well. So a big round of applause to everyone here. And I also like to thank the chair of the Welfare Committee, Mr. Julius, for helping put this talk together. And without his
diligence, none of this would happen. Also to the wider welfare committee for helping and assisting him in the sessions they are. And last but not least, we thank everyone who came here to set up the chairs, the tables, the food, so assisted with the intro prayer. Without obviously Selassie as well upstairs running the PowerPoint and the projector. So none of this would have been possible without the assistance of everyone coming down here to help us all set this up. So everyone, all the backroom staff, all the backroom staff as well, we have one through each. Yes. I couldn't quite see her as the flower vases covering her face, but our beloved catechist is here. So we also thank her for coming down to support us this afternoon. And yeah, this brings us to the end of the afternoon's proceedings. So we'll kindly invite Mrs. Rejoice and I for the closing prayer. Thank you all once again.
Thank you. Let us pray. Alpeto, we gladly benam, ya dochi, ya janmina, Jesia, Bobe Aliba, Yalechi, Siade Dine, O Dine, Nabuti, Siade Dine, Oh, Dine, Nabuti, Siade Dine. Father, we just want to thank you at this very moment. We want to glorify your holy name because you are the King of kings and the Lord of all. It is by your mercy and grace that you have brought us far and near to gather at this place to be able to listen to things that will guide us to the future. For this we say, glory be unto your name. Father, we thank you for a moment where we come to listen to things that will take our future when we go on pension, or for our youth to plan their future so that they will not live in this country financially handicapped. We thank you for that. Father, we thank you for the life of our speaker who has given an insight to things that are hidden for us. May your name be praised forever. Father, at this moment I just ask that all that we learn or we have heard here will not remain here, but we go thinking about it so that we'll be the wise one who has planned for our future. We will not be that stupid one or the foolish one who have seen the danger of the future and passed by it. We give you the glory. We give you the adoration. We honor you for all that you have done for us today. And we thank you for the serene moment that we listen here. Nobody has complained about any sickness, but all that went on successfully. We thank you. We give you glory now and forevermore. In Jesus' name I pray with thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Michael has said it all, and there'll be nothing more to say. But what I'd like you guys to do, or us all to do, is there's a QR code that is being circulated at the moment, and we'd like you to back, so we can actually see where we need to probably improve on. And definitely, Eduardo, I'll be in touch, and we'll be talking more about other investments and other things. So definitely we'll be probably getting you back here to give a speech on other things. So once again, thank you all very much for coming. And those who are able would like you to help us rearrange the sanctuary very quickly, because there's going to be another function here in about 30 minutes. So thank you once again for coming, and I hope this session has been quite informative to all of us. Thank you.